All right. So what I was saying was
You're
using
finding
AI.
AI dissatisfying at the moment, like the usage of it.
Well, not as yeah. I don't know if it's like less. It's less satisfying in a hard to articulate way. So I was saying that creating stuff with code, being like a bit of a hacker, as in like just hacking code together in a way where you wanted it to make it do something, and you had to sort of like figure it out, and you were like piecing other pieces of code together to get something working. That's kind of that was what I was capable of doing before. I couldn't write code from scratch. And the idea of that, and even learning to do that, just felt pointless given that there was just enough code out there to just like piece together to do what I wanted it to do. I don't know, like hooking up like a newsletter sign up form or something. And I just remember feeling this really intense, satisfying reward of like finally getting it to work after what could be hours of troubleshooting why it's not working. And then you actually learn something as a result of getting it working. But then with AI, obviously, you could do a million of those in 10 minutes if you wanted to. But you just get stuck in this like dopamine loop of I can now I can do this, now I can do this, now I can do this, and you never have that like I feel like I'm not using my full brain anymore. And it's not to say that um,
But yeah, because I was trying to tell you that it's, you're doing complex stuff, and you're doing complex things that you couldn't have done without AI. So it's not like it's pure easy street, right? Like you're still having to problem solve.
kind of, but kind of not because I think AI kind of problem solves for you. I think you're the nature of like vibe coding is that you are literally learning on the go, and you're learning from the mistakes AI makes, and then you're asking why did that happen, and then it tells you why, and then it corrects itself, and that learning is happening by osmosis, by being in the arena, as they say, rather than theoretically understanding how things work. But that yeah, there is no like, oh, right, I'm done. I've like thought enough today, or like my brain is waxed. Like you can just keep going, and it only requires you. I don't know. It's like how modern cars have become so efficient that they can be quite low powered, but they last for ages and they never get like too hot. I feel like that's what AI now does for the human brain. Is it allows you to run it quite low, so it can go for a long period of time because you're thinking in a higher abstraction of like, right, what do I need to do? What do I need to do next? What do I need to focus on? Right, well, let's work on this thing now. And then you ask the question, right, I want to do this. What's the best way of starting? And so you feel a little bit, I don't know, the analogy I give sometimes, I feel like I am a middleman shoveling dirt from one side to another. Like it
Well, I was
feels
gonna
quite,
say, it sounds like, would you say it almost because you have like agents, you sort of have a project and you spin up a bunch of agents who do different parts of the project and stuff. Is it just that similar feeling of like, when you become senior at, like, let's say copywriting, and then suddenly you're now managing a bunch of copywriters, the experience, like your work experience is then different now. It's no longer, you're no longer necessarily doing the copywriting, you're now like managing people, and it's a slightly different experience. Like you're still problem solving in the same way that a manager would, but you're not actually in the weeds of it.
yeah, but it tricks you into thinking that you are in the weeds of it because you can be if you want, but it's not as if it's faster for me to tell Claude to make a button bigger than it is for me to go into the browser, right click the button, look at how the CSS has been set up, start tweaking with some settings, and then maybe decide I'm going to make the button bigger by changing this attribute rather than that one. Whereas now I'm like, just make the button a little bit bigger. And I've kind of like let go of some control because I don't know how much bigger it's going to make it, nor do I care as much as I used to do when I was purely a designer about how much bigger that should be. And it seems to understand, like when I say just a little bit bigger, it does just make it that much bigger. That I'm like, yeah, okay, that's about right. Like there isn't such thing as like the perfect.
You mean rather than saying increase it by 2 pixels or something, you're just like,
I mean, that does happen. There are like, I don't know, a single 1 pixel like divider line. I'm like, can you increase that by 1 pixel? Because there's quite a visual difference between that. And if you say make it thicker, it might overshoot to like 5 pixels. But when I've got a button and I want it a little bit smaller, a little bit bigger, I feel like it's not going to run away with that idea to the point where it looks stupid. So yeah, it does feel, I gave before we started recording was that it just feels like you're eating loads of sweets and your teeth are all sugary and you don't feel that great. And it was nice at the time, but like that sugary teeth feeling, but for your brain, you kind of come away.
Yeah, I wonder if it's anything to do with like the sheer pleasure of deep concentration. As hard as it's like really hard to get into a deep concentration phase, but that's the basis of pretty much all the meditation, where it's like the focusing on your breath, which is inherently kind of boring, but actually getting into a flow state of concentration and sort of getting into that kind of flow state. Would you say that you don't necessarily get into a flow state with AI because you still spend a lot of time on it? But
yeah, I mean, you can if you're. I think I maybe used to, if I was working on just one thing, but now it's almost like inefficient or a waste of time to be sat there watching an agent just like, throw text at you from the prompts that you've given it. And so you naturally find like, right, whilst that's doing that, I'm going to switch tabs to this thing and see what's going on with that prompt that I gave it. And then you're reading through that. So you've literally context switched to this other thing. And then you're like, okay, sure, keep going, or whatever the prompt is that you need to give back. And then you might switch back to the first thing, see that that's still going, jump to the third thing or start a third thing. Be like, right, I need to actually get this up and running for this thing over here. And like before you know it, I think I can manage about 4 or 5 things at once.
I literally don't know how you do. I honestly think there's got to be some ADHD thing, because I've been able to manage 1, maybe 2. I can have stuff, but there'll be like hour gaps between me rechecking that tab again. But I'm still just I can't do multiple things at once, otherwise it just all falls out my head. So
well, that's kind of the problem. And I think when I say 4 to 5 things, it's rare that all 4 to 5 things are all running prompts at the same time. There might be the third and fourth thing that I'm like plugging away at like 1/10 of the time. It's like the side project tabs. I don't know, it might be like doing an analysis or like, okay, now do this with the data. And you end up just sort of like giving it a prompt for the sake of like, not having it sit there doing nothing. I'm like, oh, well, actually, it might be useful if we just go and do this with it actually. And, start putting that together. And then it goes into plan mode, and suddenly you are now having to like actually care about the prompts that you gave it. And going back to like the not getting to the flow state, because of this constant context switching, you're like, I'll go to a tab and I'll be like, I don't know what the hell I was doing here. And that's why Claude introduced that new recap feature, probably because of this reason. We're like, right, what the hell's going on here? And there's a little recap that says, you were doing this and we just done this. Next step is this. And I'm like, yep, do that next step. And then back to the other tab. And you're like, right, what's going on here? Oh, you've hit a roadblock, or I need to answer some questions. I need now to get my head back into there. And that that working kind of pattern encourages you to like become even more abstracted from it. So you don't have to think as much. So you can
just
context
checking in.
So you can context switch even more, or even better, without this like cognitive like overload of like, okay, what was this about? Where the thing I said to you the other day, like the last like 10 like responses I gave Claude on one particular project was like, yep, sure, go ahead, or yep, looks good. And the workflow I'm in now is basically semi-autonomous in that it's got a very concrete goal to work towards, and there's a very considerate, involved, depthy process to get there. And it checks in with me on where it's at. So I still have the understanding of why it's doing what it's doing, where it's got up to and what it's doing next, and how it's connected, what problems it ran into, or if there's anything I need to do to like unblock stuff. And
so
I think
what do you think makes it inherently dissatisfying though? Like, what is
There's
the
no end to
what's
it.
lacking?
There's no end.
Right.
There's no like, right, well, that's done now. As soon as you've like done something, I think this is in part of the design of the AI, like maybe how they're tuned or how they've been designed to talk to you. But I don't know if you've noticed, they always have like, it's almost like the infinite scroll of social media. There's the infinite like productivity of AI, which is you might have like finished something and then it'll say, right, well, there was a couple of things that I deferred whilst doing that. Do you want me to go and like work on those now? Or it might say, suggest some extra or next step as a result of doing that. And because you don't want to like, because you know the punishment of context switching or like leaving that conversation and coming back after 2 days and then being like, okay, you have to get back up to speed again. You don't want to lose that momentum. So you say, yeah, okay, let's do that. And then before you know it, it's 3 a.m. And just repeat ad nauseum. So it is really, it's quite.
Is that an AI thing or is that?
That's probably a me thing. But
is that you thing? Because I was going to say,
but it's not. It's not unique. I've heard this is not. I'm not. This is not unique. It's a joke how addictive. So is it a joke? It's true. Like how addictive it can be. How people are staying up till God knows when, and how there's this like. You feel like you're squandering potential by not using it. There is a FOMO of like, well, if I don't have a prompt running overnight, then what the fuck am I doing with my life?
And it feels weirdly like
it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, it also feels weirdly like that. Staying up late is a bit like I get like really bad revenge bedtime stuff. I'll be playing video games and then be like, well, I can't go to bed because if I go to bed, then the video games stop and I have to wake up and I have to do work again before I then get to play more video games. So it's like, so I don't want that sort of sensation to stop. But even though it's inherently not that satisfying and I might even be kind of bored of the game, there's just that, it's just that, you're right, it's just that dopamine loop, isn't it? Where it's like, I don't know, games make you feel like you're doing something, but you kind of secretly know that you're not. You're like, oh, I've killed 5 cowboys on Hunter Showdown. And you're like, what does that mean? Like, how's that changed your life?
And that's what's I say dangerous about AI, given that it can have such an impact on your just everything, your life, your mental well-being, your physical well-being, your sleep, is that it feels like this really important busy work because you're constantly minding or managing or trying to reach some like end state in your head, and it can feel a bit like chasing a rainbow. But unlike games, which are, you can start to have this feeling of like, this doesn't mean anything. This is like, I got a new skin or I've unlocked a new thing. Like
it's a distraction.
Inherently meaninless, yeah. But then with the AI stuff, it's like not, because you're building something valuable.
You think?
And you think. And even if you do know that you're building something that customers are using or that is helping people, that's almost kind of worse because you're like, yeah, but I can't do this because then it will be like it'll be broken for people if I don't do this now, or yeah, but I really want people to be able to do this, and if they don't, you start to just play mind games with yourself.
I'm just trying to wonder if it like particularly appeals or like works on a certain kind of person, because I do get bored of it. Like I do get bored of looking at the same terminal window, and I guess I just don't, maybe I don't have the right project or something, but I just don't I find it, I do think it's really cool and there's like loads of little things, but once it starts to get sort of semi-complex, I just put it down. Like I'm just like, nah, I'll just notice that I'm not picking it up so much anymore. And I wonder if it's like more because I'm just that type of person versus you who has always had that kind of sort of need for productivity. Like when we used to do those dumb cartoons together, like you'd be up at like 6 a.m. before work doing 2 hours, and then you'd stay late after work to keep doing it. And it's like, I've never really had that in me. Like, I've always enjoyed my kind of not doing anything time.
I think for the projects or products or work or artwork or whatever, I tend to find my motivation and drive from excavating reality. This is going to sound like such a wanky thing to say out loud. Excavating reality to reveal what's in my head. So like it's like the animations. Like I had a very clear, it's literally like vivid in my head. I can see the image in my head of the final thing, and that's like point B, and point A is the reality where I am now. And I really, for whatever reason, really want that to be real. And so whatever it takes to get from A to B is me trudging through it. And I think that, to outside looking in, that looks like I'm enjoying what I'm working on. And I guess I am, but like that, the animation stuff was an absolute grind. Like it was almost masochistically punishing to animate bird poo frame by frame.
But haven't we touched something there though? Isn't that's the thing? Like AI is almost frictionless. Like maybe the grind, because what you're talking about there, that excavating, like that isn't actually as crazy a phrase as you think. Like lots of like artists and creatives talk about that. There's an author called Atessa Moshfegh who did like My Year of Rest and Relaxation, Eileen, big author, and she says when she has a book, she doesn't know whether she like tells herself it or just fully believes it, where she imagines the book is complete, that the book exists, and it's just her job to, like you say, excavate it and figure out how that book, what's the final form, but it's there, it's done, it's complete in her head. She just needs to work her way there, but there's no way AI can't do that. It's obviously more complex when it's like coding versus writing, but like she could technically, I guess, just describe it to an AI and it could like present sort of like what she's working through, but actually she feels the need to grind through. And it's even crazier for it to be like books, because like books don't make any sort of money, and it's like you are sacrificing your life for an art. You are grinding towards something, and like yes, that is horrible, and yes, that is scary and slow, and you could spend years on something and it could just amount to nothing. But is that not secretly underneath all of it kind of like where sort of pride and a certain kind of enjoyment, not all enjoyment, but like a deeper sense of enjoyment than something like AI that can just sort of spit you out cool stuff very quickly? Not to dismiss AI or anything, but could that be the missing piece? Like, is the fact that it's frictionless? It's like going down a slide. It's like, it's fun, it's frictionless, but climbing a mountain might have a deeper sense of satisfaction. And when you're doing something over long term, so AI is great when you're doing little projects and things like that, but if you're working on something over a long period of time and not getting that deeper sense of satisfaction, I can understand why it might be harder to kind of keep going.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I think with the new pip app that we're doing for Pipdex, there is no part of me that is even like 0.1% bored or struggling with the desire to keep going with it. I think it's the opposite problem. It's like,
and it's still a grind as well. Like, you're working very hard and you're doing stuff that isn't just, it's not just all fun and games, is it? Like,
no, not entirely. But I think the problem with building something like that is I'm too hyped up by all of the cool stuff that I know I want to do or might eventually do. And the annoying thing is having to wade through the boring, important foundational security and, test-driven development and just all of the boring stuff that, as a designer, I didn't used to have to worry about, because I got to just like conceptualize and test ideas out and play around with, hear from users and see their reaction to stuff and being able to like, terraform their experience. Now that entire development team has been like crushed and compressed down into one person or two. You've taken the burden of all of that on, and so you don't get to do the one little slice that used to be super satisfying for you. You've now got these other huge slices that you're learning on the fly with, making mistakes with, rebuilding the entire thing again from scratch based on what you've learned, kind of thing.
It reminds
And
me of that. There's a tweet that says, yeah, like AI means that you can squash a software development team from 10 people down to one person, but it doesn't make it any easier for that one person.
no, no. And I think that's probably inherently why it feels like it should be. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is really fun, but going back to maybe the beginning of what we're talking about, the problem is it doesn't have this same, like, I don't know, if you go to the gym or you play a game of football or you do something where you're climbing a mountain, exerting yourself, there is a limit that your body can take. And then your body is telling your brain that you can't do anymore and you're tired and you need to eat, drink water and sleep. And it feels like with vibe coding or, soft AI driven development that you just don't ever get tired, and actually sleep now just becomes this like optional thing standing in the way of you and this loop that you get stuck in. And I think
but I'm so struggling to like work out why that is, because it's like what you're suggesting, like walking up a mountain or like doing exercise, that's like hard work, and that's like you're exerting, and it's like it's not like the AI stuff that you're doing is easy work. Like you say this sort of thing, but it's like there's nothing I can do what you're doing. Only you've got the skills, inherent skills, and the patience and the graft to do it. So it's not like what you're doing isn't hard work. So I'm just trying to work out like what is that thing that's like missing for you.
I like how this is turning into a therapy session for me.
Well, I'm just really curious because I think it's an interesting, as AI keeps developing, it's just so interesting to watch people sort of from like, oh my God, I can make anything to, well, yeah, you can't make everything. And then like, oh, and it's so easy. And it's like, well, it's quite hard, but then also I don't have to sleep. And also it's really fun, but also somehow not satisfying.
Yeah. I mean, there are satisfying moments when, you're like, oh my God, this thing exists that I've built, and I could never have built this in a million years a year or two ago by myself. And it almost feels like you're in a dream, and the dream has this crazy, opening, which is like, right, yeah, you're in this world where everyone can code infinitely well. And you just have to imagine what you want to build. And it's like, oh my God, well, what am I going to make? And then you make everything. And then you're like,
Yeah.
Okay, well, actually, right, I made everything. What do I really want to actually focus my day to day on that I care about, that's going to matter in the world and be useful for people? So I think I've gone through that journey of like, make everything and now just literally focusing on one thing, I think is a process I think you just have to go through. You have to get a lot of stuff out of your system. Now you know that you can just build anything. And there's a danger to that, like, built payroll software replacement, spent like a couple of weeks learning how to properly calculate pensions and different tax rules, and for something that you should just outsource. You should just pay for the software. Like, there's some stuff where you just shouldn't try and build yourself, because it's not productive in the sense that it's not valuable for you and the business. It's not helping. It's not giving value to your customers. Ultimately, it's a bit of a navel gazing thing. Like, look what I can do.
That carries across as well into things where it's like, you might have ideas. You're like, God, if I could just do a bit of coding, I'd be so into this idea. And then now coding is solved, and you start to explore that idea. And obviously, like all these things, it's like slightly more complicated than you might necessarily think, but it's still pretty easy. And you're like, I'm actually not into that idea very much. Like, that was always just a fantasy that I chase this idea. I'm actually not that. I'm not that into it. I thought I was, but I'm not.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah. Going back to the question, I started answering a question and I can't remember.
It was what is like the missing, what feels like the missing piece, because you're doing the hard work, you are exerting yourself, like you are doing complicated stuff. What you're doing is challenging as much as you try to pretend that it's not, because I can't do what you can do. I know maybe technically I could, but my personality and my preferences and my desires and stuff means that I can't. And sometimes I do want to question you on that kind of like, we're like, well, everyone can code and everyone can do it now and everyone will. And it's like, maybe the entrepreneur bros on Twitter will, but the world is so much wider and bigger than that. And I think I'm learning like kind of like where AI sits in my life, which is like not like semi minimally. Like I'm not there. I don't have that. I thought I did, and I did for a bit, being like, oh, this is all really cool. But in reality, it's like it's a needs must for me. I don't get the same. I don't think I get the same kick from it, and that's just my own personal preference.
I think the paradox is it is hard work. It's hard work that doesn't feel like hard work, and then you can kind of go, well, yeah. I mean, is it Naval? He says like what looks like what's play to you looks like work to others. I think is what this. I feel like I'm just playing all day and I'm playing around with stuff and I'm figuring things out, and it's for an ADHD type brain. It's just a very satisfying. It's an inherently in the moment satisfying loop to be in. But I think unlike any other kind of like physical craft, you don't have that reward. I mean, that reward at the end doesn't last that long either. Let's be honest. Like you finished a painting, you finished writing a blog post, or you finished, I don't know, putting a song, any kind of creative acts. I feel like there is only a fleeting satisfaction when you achieve
the joy
the
is the doing. Like the inherent joy has to be the doing.
What's his face? What's the Apple guy? James Jobs, was it?
Ron Jobs.
Ron Jobs.
Steve Apple.
Steve Apple, yeah. I think he said the journey is the reward, and it's like it's annoyingly true. I think I've imbued that somehow because I no longer have this like feverishness to get to the end. I now realize that the making the thing is the thing. But
yeah, I'm with you. Like, I think like I've had to literally go to therapy to kind of figure out some of that kind of stuff of like the journey is the reward. And yet if you spend your life kind of focusing on like the end result of like, I've got a new synthesizer, I'm going to be Mr. Music now, or like I'm going to be Mr. Screenwriter over here, or I'm going to be this over here. They're always like that kind of like end goal thinking. And even with the AI thing where it's like, right now I can code, I can like make video games or whatever. And then the journey itself isn't, you actually don't find the journey that satisfying, and you realize, okay, I could do this journey, but actually it's not for me. I'm not really like built for that. Like I'm not that you lack the skills, but just lack the preference as well, and lack what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. And I think as things seems to get more and more frictionless, the question does become more and more like, well, what do you actually enjoy? Like you actually enjoy that kind of building, I think. Whereas I enjoy other stuff.
I think when you get to, I struggle to remember or realize that, and again, I don't know if this is like an ADHD or autism, whatever thing, but I think it's called theory of mind, where like, yeah, other people are real and have feelings and experiences, and like I can intellectually understand that, but then also can struggle to understand it implicitly. But it feels like, for me, it feels like everyone's probably going through what I'm going through, which you often remind me that is not the case. Because when you get to the complexity of what we're building with Pip, the new PipDex kind of AI thing, is that the only way that's possible is to have. I've never played Fortnite, but it's like, you can like make structures, ramps and stuff and walls as you're like running along. All of these 9-year-olds are like just going absolutely crazy with the controller, and they're just making these towers out of nowhere and shooting each other from the top of them. It feels like to get anywhere meaningful with software now, you have to have scaffolded enough of a foundation first, but you can't, like if you go make like a to-do app or I don't know, that like personal software, like make me a custom gym workout app. It's like that's easy. That's sort of trivial. You can do that in one go now. But to make something that is, I mean, I don't want to get in the weeds of like building enterprise grade software, but it is like the deepest, darkest iceberg of stuff that you have to learn, like legal compliance and data retention and how you decide your database is going to be architected and the trade-offs with that, and then realizing that you've built it in a way that doesn't allow you to do this future idea you have, so you start again because you can. That is, you have to kind of build on all that experience.
Wasn't that always the case though? Wasn't that
Yeah,
always
exactly.
the point? Like,
Yeah.
that was, you could always kind of like, if you had a mate that kind of knew a bit of coding, you could probably make a fitness app together, you know?
Well, that was the barrier to entry, was for like the last 20 plus years. When the startups raised money, we raised 10 million for our software startup that's going to revolutionize accounting by giving people a dashboard that they can do some bullshit in. It's like the only reason that's been funded is because that money goes to buying a bunch of clever people who know how to build that. That's basically doesn't exist anymore. I think venture capitalists are basically not investing in purely software-driven businesses anymore, because the barrier to entry is gone, and it's still it's hard to talk about because it's like it's not really clear where things are going with that, and it's more about like the whole thing, like whether it's like a hardware service-driven thing that it's an all-encompassing kind of proposition now. Like it's why companies like Meta are making physical hardware.
Well, they've been wanting to do that for a while. To be fair, they've been wanting to do that that was before AI. That was because they didn't like the fact that all of that Apple got to take 30% of their sales. Zuck's always fucking hated Apple because of that, and he just wanted to own the next. If you think that phones was one form of reality, he wanted to own the next one, which was, he thought, metaverse, and which is why like the Ray-Bans, the Meta Ray-Bans now, like he is like going all in on those because they seem to genuinely be potentially the next layer of reality that you put over yourself.
I think just as an aside, I think that's cooked. I think I got an email saying, "Hey," from Meta saying, "Hey, we still got this. Is it like 50% off or something?" Like they're trying to sell them. They're trying to get rid of them.
No, but I thought they had the fastest adoption of any technology ever.
Yeah, but they're being socially and culturally ostracized. Like people don't trust you if you're wearing them now.
Yeah, fucking
they're
good.
They're like, "Oh, you're a TikToker wearing Meta. Get the fuck out of here!" Like, yeah. Anyway, the going back to the anyone can build anything now.
But I think sorry. Can I just really quickly, because there was a point that you made there where you were like, oh, the barrier of entry. Like I get it in terms of like business and stuff, but this idea that now the barrier to entry was just coding, and now anyone can do it, and it's like that was one barrier, but there's actually like a million barriers, and I think they're these kind of softer, unable to necessarily articulate, and that kind of like almost a bit shameful of like, because you have it like you are a very go-getter,
handsome man. Oh, sorry.
Handsome, gorgeous young man. But you're really, you're always just like, but if you can do it, why don't you just do it? And it's like, I don't know, man, because I don't want to. Like, I'm not, there'll be certain things where you're just like, why don't you just do it? And it's like, because I just don't want to. Like, I'd rather pay someone. Like, the audio mixing that we do on this podcast, like I could probably do what you do, which is like lock in for like 48 hours and like build this perfectly custom made like audio compression that I could finish this recording and it would get automatically done and it gets spat out and it puts straight into Substack and yada yada yada. I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend the 48 hours doing that. I'd rather pay a small monthly fee and just get it done, and I don't want to have to do that. And I think there's a few things like that where you like the fact that, oh, I can do it now, so I will. And I think sometimes and I don't think it is just me. I think, we shared that Reddit thread together. you show me that Reddit thread where people are like, I'm never going to touch AI, like fuck AI, or like I've tried it, not very good. There's a whole spectrum of like people's opinions and tastes and enjoyments of how they like to interact with products and what they like to do with their time. And not all of it, or not everyone is wanting to like build their own custom stuff. So I go through different phases with it, but I think I'm in a phase now where I'm like, I don't think it's going to change that much. Like I think, yeah, VCs aren't funding software, but they're not really funding anything that much because it's all fucking scary out there. So I don't know how much is going to change. You've got these, enterprises take so long for things to change.
Yeah,
You've still
like a
got
decade.
yeah. Like you could spin up a SaaS now, make millions of pounds, and shutter it in 3 years, and you'd still be fine. You know what I mean? Like I just don't think it's going to be this huge transformative thing, and people are just going to just walk away from SaaS and stuff.
I think you're totally right. I think what's going back to like the accusation that I custom build everything. Is it like I guess what I've learned building Pip?
To be fair, you have said this. You have said this. You have said you don't.
Like you should try and use out of the box stuff where possible. Like one of the things that in part of like the version 3 of the app that only a small amount of people are now using, the whole authorization and sign-in stuff was all custom. And then what ends up happening is you have to learn about how to make authorization secure and all the edge cases. And right now I want to integrate sign-in with LinkedIn. You have to do that custom, and you have to spend energy and time thinking about how to do that properly and safely and whatnot. Or you can pay a subscription to something like Clerk, they've solved authorization and they are maintaining it and keeping on top of it. And you just plug that in, and then you know that that's basically solved. You have to think about it. And the same is true for like, storing content and retrieving it in a database, or a user interface framework, like, how the thing looks. You should absolutely not be getting AI to be custom building your components, because it's like the whole Wardley map thing. Like the stuff that's custom will eventually evolve into a commodity, and those commodities enable new custom stuff to be built. And this is, I guess, what's happening in this, what I see in a very optimistic way, this like renaissance of software development is, yes, now anyone can make software. And yes, the problem of like being able to actually code has been solved, but that's, as you say, like just one of the million barriers to entry. The other barriers to entry is understanding how the hell anything else works and pulls together to make something you can, a service you can offer to people as software that they pay for. But all of those custom things that exist right now, or certain things you can rent off the shelf to help you do that, that will also eventually commoditize. And I think that will just keep going and going until there is this like new normal, so to speak, where, just to sort of like put the, what's the phrase? Head above the parapet, or the like hanging my hat on this idea that, if you go and look, like if you are using Pip right now, or you've heard about it, from like first glance, it looks just like a ChatGPT or Claude clone. It looks like an interface you just chat with an AI assistant. And the main objection is like, why would I pay for that over Claude or ChatGPT? And our bet is that, well, we want to make it work in a certain way for our customers. We are not a venture-backed startup trying to land grab or try and be an AI provider. We're not an AI provider or a service provider. We are offering a tool that solves specific problems, and we're using our unique knowledge and our opinion and our point of view and our creativity to create tools that help you do that. And also betting on the fact that there will be different AI providers who will just be good at certain things. Like most people use Claude for coding. Lots of people use Gemini for the more personal stuff, or ChatGPT for image generation. And we're building Pip from that lens of helping people like build their business and like live their lives at the same time, and trying to make like concepts and processes and tools and things that are otherwise quite dense and scary and like obtuse into something approachable, and rewarding, and just the running slogan right now is actually useful. Like I want Pip to be actually useful, so people are coming to it when they need to use it, not because they feel they should be using it because everyone else is using AI. I think I'll log in and I'll try and use it. I want it to be obvious how you can get value out of it. And obviously we're building it, again, going back to the scaffolding thing, we're building it on top of a library of content written by real people who have had real experiences. And we're not trying to become this everything brand and solve everything for everyone. And I think that's the way it's going to go, is how the Americans say, the riches are in the niches. It's actually the riches are in the niches. I think that's the way it's going to go. And like, there may well be Jacob Welby competitors to stuff like Pip, where it's just a more opinionated kind of AI experience, because AI is so powerful. It's retrieving information, like remixing it and programmatically doing stuff. And like you say, you don't want to custom build that stuff. And I know there's stuff that I want to exist to help people figure out their business and solve their problems. And I don't want it to be buried in a Claude skill or in like, do you know what I mean? Like I want it to be this whole experience for people that they're like, oh yeah, I use Pip for work and I use Claude for, so.
And for like brainstorming and workshopping, it's just, Claude's not just great for that kind of stuff. And maybe I'm obviously seem to be on this like kick of just like slopping together things. So like, here's the small business slop, here's 13 skills to that. And it's just like, you try it and it's like, just not very good. Like I think they're trying to do a bit of, well, like you say, trying to do that kind of land grab on the surface level, not much critical thinking gone behind it, just kind of probably ask Claude, oh, what do they need? And then just been like, can you make those into skills, please? And I think the decision making that's being done by you and the discussions that we have about like what is important, what isn't important, what should be included, what should her angle be, how should she respond to stuff, like that's the thing, that's kind of the thing that you're paying for. And it was the thing that you're always paying for with Pipdex, because all of Pipdex's knowledge was always out there in Google generally. Authors, wisdom has been passed down for centuries. That was always out there, but it's actually the curation and the thoughtfulness behind it has always been there at Pipdex, and it's just going to continue to be so.
It's just
AI is going to bring the data forward for you.
Yeah, it's just another manifestation of that curation belief that we have. That like a restaurant menu, like if there's a menu, if I go to an Indian restaurant and there's like 100 different curries, I'm just like, I just go and find the one thing that says popular, and I just say, just give me that. But when I go to like a set menu restaurant, and it's like, right, you can have the meat option or the vegetarian option. I'm like, great, give me the meat option. And you're just on rails. I really value that. You also feel like you're in the care of someone. Like, I trust that you're giving me like the best experience. And I think I get a real kick out of that, because it's a joyful thing to be able to make. I don't know, it feels like you're making DJ set lists and people are coming to your gig because they like what you've put together, even though none of the songs are yours in a certain respect. And yeah, there's that just creation with, Pip and AI that I guess seems like a fairly bold. Like, I think there'll be people that may disagree with that. Like, yeah, Claude will eventually do what you can do, and it's like, well, it's kind of not the point. Like, that's the other thing I think is the unsung hero of. I don't think we would be doing this if we were starting a new business from scratch. I wouldn't be building what we're building now, because we have a captive audience, and that sounds like we're holding them hostage. But I mean, we have
fans,
tens of thousands of people that that love Pipdex, who I'm extraordinarily grateful for. And the fun game of business is, right, so what's your biggest problem? And we'll help you figure that out. And then you do that for them, and they reward you with money, which means you get to keep making stuff to help them. And there's this just really nice permission-based loop of like, that feels like the most joyful part of business, is where you don't have this existential threat from competitors, because, like Jason Fried said, that your biggest competitor are your costs. Get those low, and then like you're basically fine. And as long as you're solving your customers' biggest problems, and like Derek Sivers says, thrill your customers, that's just inherently fun thing to do. And I like helping people. You like helping people, and we like helping people get to new ideas or kind of creative breakthroughs through the act of writing. Like you're having a real, I wouldn't say it's a renaissance
it's
moment.
a renaissance,
A renaissance with like your email writing, because it's like, again, full circle with the AI thing. I think AI and content is just such a. I don't know if you want to keep going about AI and content, but it's such a flawed. It feels like such a dead end for me personally.
Yeah, 100%. It was like one of those things where it's like all this stuff. You've got to give it a try, and the temptation for like, as a small team we could do so much more, but then it's just like it's two things. It's like it's really unenjoyable to like work with and to like edit and to sort of figure out, and like it presents you something, and that we've said it before, where you look at it and then it like kind of looks fine, like it looks like an email, it looks like something that we'd write, and then you sort of squint and you're like, well, no, that actually makes no logical sense, and it's like that story's not there, and that's not real, and this is also a really boring way to read it, and the rhythm of it sounds like every other fucking email that now sounds the same. It's like that whole experience of reading AI writing, like it's genuinely putting me, I'm using the internet less. Like you won't ever catch me on LinkedIn anymore, because I just hate seeing that same, every story is written with like, strange hook. I started doing this, but then I realized this. And then this happened. It's like the same thing.
It isn't just about X, it's about Y.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Fuck
and
off.
it's just like trying to edit that is like a miserable experience. Like I'd rather work really hard on something that maybe like on a technical level isn't as good, like isn't like the perfect sentence structure and the perfect rhythm and stuff. But I'd much rather do that in a way that feels fun and feels is that kind of thing. If the journey's the way, the journey is the fun part, then that surely must be reflected in when someone's reading it and they're like, this person had a fucking blast putting this together. Like the emails that we're doing for the Stories That Sell Masterclass, like because it's about storytelling, I'm like, well, they've all got to start with like a super fun, compelling story.
You got to dog food the thing, right? You got to show.
Yeah, and then you go, okay, well, how to make this fun for myself? Because we do stories and emails all the time. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to try the thing where you start with the most random opening and you try to land the plane and you try to go, how can I connect this? So I'll start with a lesson that Steve talks about in the masterclass. And I go, okay, what's the most like extrapolated version? Like what's the most like completely disconnected sounding story that I could then link to this? And how could I have these like fun sort of twists that you can have along the way? And it takes me fucking ages. Like it takes me so long. I can't scale this. So the only way you can kind of like solve it is like maybe turning it into blog posts and articles, so at least it's less ephemeral. But it's just so much better. And it's like, I just have no doubt that it will do better and people will enjoy it more. And maybe it'll turn into more sales. Maybe it won't. I don't know. But it's like, sometimes you just got to kind of go, it feels right. This feels right. I'm not dossing off. It's not easy. It's really hard. But there is that kind of innate satisfaction in doing it, which just never existed with like writing content with AI or just trying to edit it and make it sound like yours. Because it just feels like, don't know, with writing it's really hard because it's slightly different than like coding, because it's like, it feels really strange to like essentially whisper in someone's ear being like, no, don't write it like that, say it like this. It's like, okay, and off it goes, rather than you just doing it yourself, because you've got the idea.
It takes that feedback and like makes it an inverse, so it kind of like overcompensates for your. And there's like, it'll even sometimes say, "Yes, we totally don't ever talk about this sort of thing." It's like, no, don't mention it. Just don't talk about it. But it's almost like is the flaw with LLMs is you say don't think about black cat. It's going to be like, right, I will not think about black cat, even though you said don't think about it. I have to get it out of my system that there's a black cat now in the context of what this chat.
There's this idea, isn't there, where it's like when you make like a business decision, like if the decision is for the company, it's generally not great for the customer. If you're doing something, if you're pricing something that would like benefit the business more than it'd ever benefit the customer, that's like a bad idea. And I think that kind of tracks with like AI copywriting and content writing. It benefits the business. It benefits like, oh, it's really easy and but it doesn't benefit the customer because they're reading sloppy shit that doesn't teach them anything and just isn't that enjoyable to read. And I don't know whether people notice, whether they don't. This is my optimistic take is like humans are very discerning. Maybe people don't realize it at the moment because they're not like in the weeds with AI as much as we are. But give it a couple of years, everyone's going to be talking about that, not X, but Y. Like we were talking about not X, but Y years, like a year ago. And now you're seeing it on LinkedIn that everyone sort of says, oh, I know that now. And it's like, people will catch up and it will catch on and it will get incredibly boring.
I'm holding two kind of contradictory beliefs here or ideas. Is that I'll see what like one of these LinkedIn posts, right, that is just painfully obviously AI written, and maybe there's like a meta thing here about like, you know, I care about that more than the regular average person, maybe for the sake of, you know, the kind of work we do. And I'll read it and I'll be like, okay, well, at least it's readable. And like, yeah, the point and the story does come across. And then you see there's 200 comments and like 1,000 likes. And I'm just like, right, surely there's going to be some people here saying, nice AI slop art, you know, right? You know, was this written by AI? Just where, you know, nowhere to be seen. Like no one so there's either two things happening. Either no one gives a shit or no one gives a shit enough to say anything, or people just don't even realize. And those are both troubling conclusions. And or perhaps, you know what it is? There's a bunch of people who did see it as AI and just don't want to like burn the social bridge of posting on LinkedIn saying AI slop. It's not, you know, we're not on Twitter.
I guess like LinkedIn posts and stuff, like it's not that much an investment for a reader to experience. Like, okay, I've read 300 words and it's AI slop, like whatever. Like it's not that deep. But like our emails in particular skew very long and they are story led. And I don't think, maybe that's it. I think you're doing long form storytelling. I think it will just make people slightly bored. Like I don't think it'll necessarily people will be like, I reject AI and I don't like this. Like, I think people will just get kind of bored of it. Like I think people will just recognize that way of writing and like people will yearn for the alternative. That's just what humans do. We get bored of things. We watch 30 Marvel films. We're all bored of Marvel now. Like it's just humans just want that novelty, and AI presents itself as like a picture of the future with that kind of stuff, but actually it's more of a snapshot of the past. Like it can't create novel stuff. The humans have to do the novel stuff, the unique stuff, you know?
So there's this idea I read recently, which is in the context of coding, is that AI hasn't necessarily raised the ceiling, but it's just raised the floor. And I think that's probably true of writing as well. So all of those people posting, you know, that one person in particular that whose LinkedIn posts used to be almost incomprehensibly bad, and they were almost endearingly bad.
Yes.
And now they're gone because they use AI to write nice, very acceptable, comprehensive posts. And you kind of have lost who that person is through their personality and character of writing. But their old posts were really, really bad and got no engagement. And now their new posts are basically just as bad and boring, but now readable. And so it's still the same kind of like meh. It just looks a bit better, or it's just. Do you know what I mean? So I think in in respect of, what does this all mean? I think good writing that's had effort poured into it will show. It will be more interesting to read. People will connect with it more. I think ultimately, given that, our main, lifeblood of the business are our customers and emailing our customers because they want to hear from us. How do you get a mailing list of people that want to hear from you? You write good emails that they look forward to. How do you do that? Definitely not AI generating stuff, barely reading it or barely editing it and sending it and hoping for the best. Like, what is that? That kind of, I think that's just very disrespectful for their intelligence as well.
It's like I've said to you before, is like, if you can't be asked to write it, I can't be asked to read it. Like,
yeah.
like it's just, and I guess there's you got that kind of tension between like, businesses require an outcome. So like, okay, matey wrote an AI slot script for a TikTok video. The TikTok video got millions of views. Like, great, cool, whatever. And they've got the outcome that they're looking for. But maybe they'll end up feeling that kind of dissatisfied feeling of just like, I think ultimately, selfishly, you are how you spend your time. And ultimately, selfishly, I don't want to spend my time editing AI. Like, I find that just inherently dissatisfying when it comes to writing. I enjoy me doing it. Like and so if I want to do something long term, I've got to enjoy the journey, like going right back to, you got to enjoy the journey. I've got to enjoy writing it, and I don't enjoy like it is kind of as simple as that.
Yeah.
Like maybe people will read it, maybe they won't, but ultimately I don't enjoy doing that.
So and you're putting a piece of you in the writing. I think there's a bit of like carving your own flesh off in order for that writing to have happened. And there's, vulnerability and, risk involved in that. Like, you're writing something that you don't know how well it's going to be received. But with AI, like, it's never going to write anything too dangerous, if you want to call it like dangerous writing. But I think that's a connection I've just made now, hearing that, going back to like, why does AI software building have this like semi-dissatisfying like loop to it? And I think it is because I want to create the very visual, concrete thing. And, going from painting and playing guitar and animating, where like your physical action is immediately transcribed into something you can see or feel or touch. With AI, there's just a load of like boring shit in the way between you and like the thing that delights your customers, even though it's enabled you to do it. And that's kind of it. You can do it now, but now you still have to wade through all of the bullshit. And maybe some of that bullshit is becoming more and more contained in like things and services you can rent, like the, authentication bit or the database bit or the, even the AI model bit. You don't have to tune your own model now. You can just use Claude or ChatGPT. I just want, I want to get away through all that stuff. I want that stuff to become commodified. I kind of want to get to like the no coding era of the AI development world as quickly as possible, because like I don't enjoy wading through the boring bullshit of, but you have to, is what I'm trying to say right now. You have to.
So I see you're basically your dream would actually kind of basically go back to being like a designer, where your main job is designing, not doing the actual like boring code shit. Like, even though AI does most of it, you still got to do a bit. And is it more about like, I want to go back to just designing it and being able to like do what you used to be able to do, which is design something, hand it to a development team, and off they go, sort of thing.
I think so. It's almost like Simon Wardley basically says, the guy behind Wardley Maps, very good guy. Go follow him on LinkedIn. Very interesting. Talks a lot about this sort of thing as well. He says that, when you're prompting AI, you're basically wishing for something. And depending on how big or small that wish is, you're wishing code into existence. Or you're wishing features into existence. And it's like how you like wish those in which way. If I was to drop myself back into, agency days where I used to work as a designer at a digital agency, it would be like all of the developers were now androids who didn't sleep, and I could just command them to do whatever I wanted. And then one of them will come back and say, "Here, I've done this," and I'd look at it and be like, "Okay." And so what's so and so over there done? Okay, so can you now like put those two together and then show me what that looks like? And then they do dutifully, and then, then they're showing you what they've done, and you're like, you guys, you haven't quite got it, so you need to go back and do it differently now. But it's just that it's really it is.
I wonder if that is there something about because I always think yeah, you have that vision and stuff, but then like a lot of creative, any sort of building requires you to kind of almost figure out what you're thinking. Like maybe you have it differently, but I rarely have like, I'll have like an idea or a feeling or like, I want this kind of thing, but I won't necessarily have everything concretely rounded out. So I have to kind of like feel my way there and I have to be like, write something, tweak it, go back, edit it, leave it, come back, do it. But it's all me. So it's all me doing that. Like let's just say writing as an example. If I had a team member and I was like describing to them doing it and then they bring me back and I'm like, no, that's not right because I haven't been able to articulate exactly what I'm looking for. I wonder if there's something with the AI where it almost, because it feels separate to you, there is a higher feeling of frustration because it feels like someone just doesn't understand what you're trying to say, but actually it's, you're still trying to figure it out yourself. I don't know what I'm trying to say there.
No, I totally get what you're saying. And I think I can get to what I want it to look like, come hell or high water, just because, that's my background and I kind of know what I want, or I've seen stuff that I like and I then know how that's going to translate into what I'm making. It's more the discrepancy between, it's a balance between like not being too broad and not being too specific and being goal orientated with AI. And then it is just the Pareto bullshit of like the last 20% takes 80% of the effort and energy. It's that. And the last 20% is the stuff that you just assumed would have been picked up by the initial spec and the prompt and the whole like 10 hours you spent on it. Surely you would have also considered that. And then you find out like, the last 20% of that 20% is also taking up 80%. It's just a fractal Pareto principle is honestly the best description I can give it. And that's the thing that keeps you in. And like, I've spent a day on some bullshit that doesn't matter and doesn't affect customers, but you got squirreled into it anyway because you're a completionist.
Is that just software development in general?
I think so. I think
AI. Yeah.
I think it's software development in general, and there's knowing when to stop, when something's good enough. Don't fix something that isn't broken. If you're not even measuring it, then why are you trying to make it better? But there's loads of principles there that you can easily defy if you're not aware of them. But I think because AI, like I said before, hey, do you want me to just do a pull request for that? Or yeah, I can go take a look at that for you real quick. And you're like, yeah, sure. And then you lose 2 hours of your life on something that you just shouldn't have like started pursuing because you could, because it was easy and you don't even carry the same like experience of the burden of. And I'm still learning. I'm still learning what to focus on and what not to focus on. And knowing, just making the right call. And it's funny how at the end of the day, it does come down to like decision making and prioritization.